Transient negative, harmonic phase correction, RFI, EMI, smart meter, whole house dirty electricity filter. Bullshitatorium flatulinatum. Installation. Where do you put your noise filter on the electrical system that will work best? This is not an easy answer. Main circuit breaker panel. This is where the power comes in from the power company and would be the junction where you have your big breaker, if you have one in your house. Some of you may not. Depends on the area you're in, the rules. And a bunch of little breakers for every single circuit. They could be multiple outlets or whatever. There may be two breakers or one breaker that's made out of two of them fused together to run something that's much more powerful, just because it needs more amperage, and it might separate the power onto two separate breakers, usually by doing two legs of the single phase cabling, which means it's running two 120 volt lines, but one of them is attached to the other, and this one's just declared neutral or ground, and it has two opposite phases, and you can get 240, 220, whatever across the other legs. And if you run it by using a three-phase system and cheating, you get this weird combo number because they're kind of not in phase with each other. Installation of any kind of filtering system for the whole house can be done at the breaker. Usually this is done by using a sub panel. This is another breaker panel over here. It's usually smaller, but it can be just the same size. Usually put over into the next, between the next set of studs. Some of you ladies just made a joke. And in that panel, you could have a box that contains whatever doohickeys do it. The kind of filter you use can have certain characteristics that are important. Some of them are made for two wires that both carry AC or even DC. And they filter noise by making sure they have a filtering going into a box with both wires. It might go through it, or it just might need to connect up to the rest of the power. The type that kills off most radio noise and radio signals that can get into the power line from anything you use and from the power line that could affect anything you use can actually be put into there with relatively low power hookups. If you buy one off the internet, it has to tell you what its voltage rating, current rating, and what specifications are. Or you could just type in electrosmog and dirty electricity and get yourself a little bit of a woo box. They don't tell you the voltage rating, current rating. They don't tell you what radio signals it kills because they don't want to. If they don't make a promise or tell you anything about what's in the box, especially if they sue anybody who opens it up and finds out what's in there, then, as long as they don't tell you what's in it and make no real promise about anything real, electrosmog and dirty electricity are not terms that are recognized by anybody who's technical. Most of the time, anyway. They can't be sued and you can't get your money back out of them. And they charge you almost exactly anywhere from 4 or 3 times the amount that they're really worth to 10 to 20 times the amount what the stuff's worth. Yes, you're being screwed over. It's a scam. They claim that electrical signals and noise can cause ADHD, asthma, cancer, diabetes, sleep problems, fatigue, headaches, brain fog, muscle joint pain, depression, and paranoia. Oh no, they don't say that. And it's all caused by dirty electricity, or DE, high frequency noise superimposed over standard power line signals from everywhere. Now, I've told people before you can literally just use a noise killing circuit that you can attach to the circuit. You can even put it in where you would put your breakers in. Now, I can't find the breaker based one, but there is one. It still uses a breaker, but it uses a breaker that's really a coil. That's part of the process. It's a pair of them, one on each leg, because each of the center tapped single phase cabling you got needs to be tagged that way. And then it goes to an external box and a sub panel, and it contains a noise filter and a coil of wire. Now, that only just basically kind of shorts out the radio signals. It doesn't draw any current unless there's radio noise or something above 100 cycles per second. The other kind runs inline and really does clean it up a lot more. That requires that you interrupt the entire power supply to your house. That means it has to be rated for hundreds of amps, and it should be rated even higher. That's a bit too industrial, but there is a halfway point. You can make one of these things on a sub panel and do all that. That can be done. And it can be a through, feed through type or pass through, or it can be one that just sits across the lines and gets rid of the noise. But you can have one for each circuit, and it's a little bit smaller than the breaker in some cases, and it'll fit on there. You take your wires and you hook up the wires directly from neutral and hot to that breaker panel, and it acts as another part. Now, depending on where you are, you have to run it through an extra large panel, which means you basically have to put it between two studs or have an offset. It's complicated. This is an industrial activity. The other option is to put it in line with the wiring coming from it on an external box. It looks like a standard switch box. You put the thing in there. And they make them that way. You just bolt it in. But it has to be accessible when you have a wall there. So you're supposed to put it where there's studs instead of a wall so you don't have to worry about it. And you just take the wires and just put it in line and you're done. It does need a neutral and a power and the ground because it has to ground out all the noise. And that will do the job. And they can be rated anywhere from, 100 amps, 200 amps, all the way down to 6 or 10. And you can also take the one that's kind of passive and doesn't require it to be inline and put it on all of your outlets. You can even buy an outlet that comes with this. It's a little tiny noise killer built into it. If it goes, you see a little light come on, you turn off the power and change out the socket. Can't find those anymore. But they do exist. I just couldn't find any that were available with a price tag. But they run about $3 stinking. Or you can spend $1,250 for the Satan Power Perfect Box, or whatever name it is, which contains probably about $200 worth of parts. You're being bilked. You can have one at the outlet. You can have one at each circuit breaker in the box. You can even, at one point still, maybe, get circuit breaker shaped ones that have the circuit in it. You can also get an external sub-panel box, or you can get an entire panel subsystem that interrupts your entire house for industrial grade. You buy one industrial grade filter, it'll work longer than you need it to for the house. $150 for a 60 amp. $55 or $51 for a different 60 amp. They work from anywhere from AC to DC up to 400 cycles a second, or they kill it above 100. Some of them have a hard turn-off of noise at 1 megahertz. Some don't work above that, so you have to use additional passive circuits, which you just plug into the cabling and that's it. Put it at the box if you want. If you have something noisy like a drill or a piece of equipment you think is producing noise, you can just put it at that outlet. They make them. Even the companies that make the ones I think that are overblown cost, they make individual little units for $6. Don't buy more than one. See if it does any good. You can get 20 amp units for $40 or $65 for $25. 30 amp unit for $40. $6 for a 10 amp unit. Single phase IEC inlet. What that means is it's the filter that you can rip out of any old computer power supply. They're passive filters. They work fine. I use them all the time. You just put the cable in and then hook up a socket on it. So you have this kind of extension cord looking thing. It just traps out the noise signal. You just have to make sure all your outlets are grounded. If you're thinking of killing off the evil ray beams and smart meter noise, but you don't check to make sure you have grounded wiring, and you're going to believe all these woo peddlers. You're going to paint your wall with lead because you think that's radio frequency shielding when it isn't. You can get a $67 one that's 36 amps. You can get a 99 amp one for $170 or $200 depending on how robust it is. They're pretty much the same thing. In fact, it's from the same company. But one of them is built bigger so that it can be bolted into literally the wall as a plate. And they do make 200 amp ones that are made to filter an entire house. $250. Or you can spend, I'm not kidding, 4 times or 10 times or 20 times the amount of what your solution really needs for somebody who just makes sure they include all of your woo peddler words like dirty electricity and electrosmog and earth changes. Go green, vegan, electrical power. Whole house or home, maximum cost or maximum cost with parts. using real surge protectors, because they all claim to do that, and real dirty electricity electrosmog filters that really work in a way that can be demonstrated to an objective scientific mind, that should be good enough for you, instead of it being just that right shade of woo color. $200 for the entire house. I'm not going to tell you what combination. I'm just going to leave a bunch of archived links and a couple of PDFs for you to peruse if you want to. If you really want to solve a problem, instead of propping up, big placebo alt pharma, if you want to do something besides propping these people up who keep telling you you're right the entire time, it's always ray beams from space. If you want to do something more useful than that horse shit that you might be thinking of doing, you can do this yourself without paying me a fucking dime. You can find a local company that sells these. You can ask somebody who had to set up a radio equipment area. You can do this. This isn't impossible. If you're watching this video because you just listened to a woo peddler tell you how to clean up noise, don't listen to them anymore. You can filter out all the noise you think is happening. If you have a smart meter on the side of your house, there's nothing legally restricting you from just putting sheet metal around it and making it to where the signal does not go into you. You don't put an electrical bonnet over it. If you do that, they have to come onto your property and read the meter. That's fine. You can also request, they'll make you pay more, a meter that doesn't have the ability to produce radio signals. Then you have a privacy concern. If you are trying to solve a problem, you're not going to have the ability to be an activist. Activists aren't there to solve problems. And people trying to sell you something where they avoid saying, what the wattage is and what its voltage is. I mean, the people who sell you these things that I'm linking to show you the waveforms to show you that it isn't perfect. Here's the power signal here. It's supposed to emphasize the signal pass-through. Here's the kill-off signal because it's going to boop, and then right here it's supposed to null out this huge amount, and then there'll be a whoop, whoop. It shows you that it's not perfect. Because it can't be. What do the woo peddlers say? Oh, it blocks everything. But we're not responsible if it doesn't work. Meanwhile, these people show you, it doesn't work perfectly. You'll have to use additional filters at the higher frequency, which consists of a couple of damn capacitors. I mean, come on. It's not that expensive. They're just ceramic capacitors. You can just buy them. They can be plug-in modules. You can stick them in that way. They'll tell you, they'll guarantee them. If you have the installation done by you, some of them will still guarantee it. A lot of people who do solar power systems have to do this because they use switching circuits. They have to smooth the switching power. Switching circuits do odd harmonics all over the spectrum. They have to clean it up. So they know what they're talking about. Or you can just listen to a woo peddler who won't even let you see that the circuit diagram shows that it's, single phase, single stage versus single stage, three stage. Single phase, three stage kills off noises at three different groupings to clean it up more. They don't tell you how many stages. If you break one open, they sue you for giving away the goods. They can sell you an empty box with wires going in and out of it. It's not legally required to work. They can make any claim. The only reason it has an underwriter's laboratory thing on it is it says that it won't burn to the ground if you run electricity through it. That's it. It just means it's not a fire hazard. Meanwhile, they tell you every single smart meter is a death trap and it's going to catch you on fire and give you cancer. With no proof. I don't get a dime. And I'm going to put at the top, don't watch my video, don't like, subscribe, or comment. Pause the video, ignore me, and just read. Learn. Educate yourself. Teach yourself to strangulate them right where you need to squeeze these liars who are trying to get money out of you. Crush them. Take away their money. Stop listening to them. Make them show you the diagrams, the wiring charts. Make them print the specifications. One of the companies put out, it's still woo peddling, but at least they tell you the voltage and current rating it uses. They at least tell you. They don't show you the wave curve. They don't show you the spectral curve. It doesn't show you what it's going to clean up. They'd be perfectly useful. I would recommend them if they weren't hiding data. Who's hiding the information? Woo peddlers. Big placebo. Big alt pharma. Not the geeks. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.